Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. We're starting the week off on a Tuesday because yesterday was a holiday, and which means that we have the BluePrint Power Hour. If you're tuning in live, you can ask any kind of questions you want. Nothing is off topic. We try to focus on training, nutrition, supplementation, drugs, and everything under that. But occasionally we get odd questions, and we'll answer those too. Nothing is off topic. Coach Rob Regish will join me in just a second. First, I have to pay homage to our title sponsor, and that is Legendary Foods. The tasty pastry is taking the world by storm. I kid you not. They can't keep them in stock. That's how delicious they are. Because you really feel like you're eating something you shouldn't be eating. They taste that good. If you like a piece of pastry once in a while, something with icing on it and filling in it, the tasty pastry is for you. Less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality protein. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary, you can save 10% off when you use the code SHR10. And we are getting everybody's promised freebies shipped out this week. If you listen during the commercial break, you hear the secret word, email it to onair@superhumanradio.net, including your mailing address. We'll send you a free box of tasty pastry. Everybody's going to be surprised. Everything is going to be shipping. The holdup is my fault, but we will get that fixed here very shortly. And now, without further delay, let's bring our Coach Rob Regish on and play his music. There we go.
Calling all BluePrint Army. Fall in line. It's time for the BluePrint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish on the Superhuman Radio Network.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's beautiful up here, 75 degrees and sunny, and it's a great time of year to be in the Northeast.
82 and sunny here.
Yeah, not too much different, huh?
No. We had our share of rain. It cleared up nicely. The weekend overall was really nice.
Right.
I drank alcohol every single night this past holiday weekend. Every night.
At least you're an honest man about it.
At least it didn't even, at least it was like, I'm not having anything tonight. I want to take some time off. I was like, okay. And then I pop open a bottle of white wine. And she's like, I guess I'll have one glass.
Right.
Yeah. But you know what? I feel like cutting loose once in a while is actually very therapeutic. So.
Yeah. Well, that was found to be very true, especially the Russians. The Russians took children from a very young age that tested to be proficient in various things, one of which was weightlifting. And all they had them do was lift weights until one day they just couldn't take it anymore and they wanted to play soccer. So they let them kick the ball around and everybody's morale went through the roof. And it was an interesting anecdote that I read. Yeah.
How is your training going, Rob?
My training is going terrific. As we spoke about earlier, I am building training momentum. So the last couple of weeks have been very gratifying, very solid workouts, not great, but certainly good enough, and building to great ones. And maybe that's something we could talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm actually taking 2 days off, today and tomorrow.
Right.
Because I've trained for the last 8 days in a row.
Oh yeah.
So, and now what I'm doing is if I don't lift, I do cardio. So I'm really picking up, and this is what happens with me. I slowly start adding things in as my training endurance increases, as my body responds, and as I mentally feel like, I think I'm going to start training this in addition. And I've gone from training for 40 minutes at a time now to an hour and 25 minutes at a time, because now I'm starting to add things in. And one of the last things I'll add in will be abs. I'll start doing inchworms, rollouts with a little wheel.
Right.
But I instinctively start to add stuff in as I feel like, I can do more today. I can do more today.
Yeah, instinctive training is it's very effective for those of us who've been doing this a while and can read your body signal. So, hey, you know what? If you have those instincts, use them.
So the first question comes from, and feel free for those of you watching live, two things. Post your questions, and I promise we will answer them. If we may not be able to answer them till later in the show, but we will answer every question. And do me a favor, or as we say in Brooklyn, do me a solid and share the show right now. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can share the show. Just click the share button. Who you hurting? It's like, share the show. That's it. Okay. First question comes from Steven Stewart. He says, you brought up mixing weights and calisthenics last week. Does that mean alternating workouts, or just weights and just calisthenics, or something different? Is there a best way to do it?
Well, the point I was trying to make, and the point I've tried to make for years, is this. It is not, or it shouldn't be, an either-or situation. You can and should, I think, use both calisthenics and weights to get the best of both. And as I've said many times, I'm a big believer in the fact that it should be age adjusted. So if you're 20 years old, you're doing 20% calisthenics, 80% weights. If you're 80, you flip that. The issue that may still confuse some folks is this, weighted calisthenics, which is to say things like dips, but you're hanging weight around your waist, weighted chin-ups, handstand push-ups with a weight vest maybe. Those, in my opinion, combine the best elements of both. And so I learned this early on, at least with me. There comes a point where just doing higher and higher reps defeats the purpose. It's if the purpose was to add as much muscle and strength as possible, and that was my goal. Stated another way, it's much better, I think, to start adding weight to, let's say, your chin-ups once you can do 15 or 20 with your body weight versus doing 25, 30, 35, and just keep going in the number of reps. Ditto for dips. I think once you get to 10 to 12, you start adding weight. Now, I also learned that same lesson the hard way, meaning the arthritis that I have in my right elbow, the only injury that I have, I can't take high reps, it's just more reps beyond a certain point, grind away at what's left, which is not much, I'm bone on bone. I would much rather do, let's say, 10 sets of 2 reps wearing a weight vest than 2 sets of 10 reps with body weight. Same volume, if you think about it, better mix of absolute and relative strength, in my opinion, less wear and tear on the body. And if you're going to do this, by the way, you don't need to go out and buy a 50, 60, 100-pound weight vest.
In fact, don't make the mistake I made. So I bought a weight vest that starts out at 50 pounds, and then you can add to it. But the 50 pounds is sewn in. It's not like I can remove it. And there's times where I just don't want 50 pounds. Buy the lightest weight vest you can buy that allows you to add more weight and remove it if you don't want it. Please.
Yeah, a 20-pound vest is plenty, believe me.
Especially because I don't know if you notice this, but do you notice I'm not even crazy about weight vests anymore because of the spinal loading?
If you're wearing it a long time, yes, I would totally agree with you. Yeah. I can feel that in my lower back, and it's not a good feeling, right?
Because the weight is being borne by your shoulders and being pressed straight down. Even a backpack is better because the backpack pulls you back this way, and the weight isn't really pushing down on the spine, it's pulling backwards on the spine. I think the best thing to do is buy a cheap backpack and throw some weights in it.
Yeah, one other reason not to go much heavier than 20 pounds is I made the mistake of buying a 60-pound pack, or weight vest rather. Anything, in my opinion, over 40 or 50, and you're risking shoulder injury every time you put it on. Because if it's you and just you, you need to lift it up. You need to swing it over your head, unless you can come up with some other system. And I have, but it's cumbersome. And unless you have 2 or more people, you are risking shoulder injury with any heavy weight vest. So
yeah, interestingly enough, most of the weight vests aren't made to strap on this way. You've got to get them over your head first.
Yep.
And that's another thing. It's really, really good that you point this out. I'm telling you, don't waste the money on a weight vest. Go to Target, buy the cheapest backpack you can, and then find a suitable incremental weight management system that you can use, whether it's plates or I don't care. A jug of water, a 1 gallon jug of water is 8 pounds, but load the backpack up and walk with that. That actually will correct lumbar spine problems. I think the weight vest will make them worse.
I can tell you by wearing that 60 through my conditioning, which I'll never do again. It pulls down on your traps. You feel it in 2 places, your traps and your lower back. And the lower back is not a good feeling because it's fatigued. And you don't want to perform really any type of lifting motion, much less anything complex like trying to flip a tire with a back that is already compromised.
Yeah.
So I would tell you calisthenics and weights, use them both, get the best of both. If you want to buy a vest, either get a 20-pounder or, as you point out, a backpack. You can do them on separate days. You can mix them. As long as you're doing them, you should be good.
All right, let's go through a couple. So I'm sad to read this one. So my friend Andrew Scarborough, who just had another turn around the sun, happy birthday. He said he got overconfident and partially dislocated his left shoulder yesterday. He's just getting into all serious training. Now his legs are going to get stronger. So this is typical of anybody who's serious about training. When I had my leg surgery, my foot surgery, I trained my right leg and my upper body. You just keep training. You just train what you can. That's all you really can do.
He's got the right attitude. My legs will get stronger.
And the other thing is, there's a lot of evidence of something called cross-education. Lots of studies have been done. So if your left shoulder, let's see, did he say left shoulder, train your right shoulder, your left shoulder will actually not lose much strength or muscle.
You'll still get some benefit. Yes, absolutely.
So Robert Thompson says the Huberman Labs recommends 6 sets of 10 of compound exercises with a 2-minute break between sets. Then done. He does deadlifts this way to raise testosterone. I do it twice a week. Seems to work. Any thoughts? Well, everything you do raises testosterone. Just for the record. I'm gonna hit your mic for just a second, Rob.
Yep.
It sounds like they're mowing right outside.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What do you think?
Well, first off the bat, 6 sets of 10 is a lot, and 60 total reps in the deadlift, is a lot.
And chances are, you're rating yourself, so you're going to use a much lighter weight because you go, oh man, I got to do 10 sets of this,
Right.
Well, 6 sets. I'm sorry.
And even more so, right? He's only resting 2 minutes in between sets, which is really moving. I mean, that is certainly incomplete recovery, especially on the most compound, I think, of all compound lifts. I'm not saying not to do it. I would not do it twice a week. If you want to deadlift again later that week, then I would either, depending upon how you feel, do far fewer repetitions,
right,
and sets, or work on speed. 12 sets of 2, 10 to 12 sets of 2 with 45 seconds in between. If you can get bands on there, all the better. But I don't know about doing 2 of those workouts in a week.
Yeah, I would absolutely come back and do singles, doubles, and triples.
Yeah,
with heavy weight, but don't exhaust yourself because because one of the things that people don't understand is, like, if you do too intensive a workout too many times during a week, your testosterone will plummet.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, and it's something that is very individual. 6 sets of 10 at age 52 almost would flatten me. As somebody that's 25, they might eat it up.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. I'm glad we're on the same page on this one. Not only will you benefit physically, I think, from doing a different workout later in the week, but also mentally.
Yes.
It'll be much easier on your psyche to go in there and do something different than what you had done prior.
Remember when I got into the whole triple pause, 5 sets of 5, heavy triple pause?
Yep.
Well, I was doing that at least a couple months. I was shocked. I started to think to myself, oh, man, I don't even want to train today. And that was the signal to me. You know what? I'm not doing that. And so now I haven't done it for a few months, and I'm ready to get back to it. When you do something that is really challenging to the nervous system, more so than the musculature, to the nervous system, the body starts to regulate you and tell you not to do it anymore. And people ignore that, and that's how they end up with detaching triceps, tearing hamstrings, you know.
And you're right. You'll feel that or experience it up here first. If you get to this point, oh geez, I got to go to the gym again today and do 10 sets of 6. Your body is close behind.
Your body is coaching you.
Yeah.
Your body's coaching you. It means go in and do something different.
And a lot of people, instead of listening to that little voice, they'll say, but the program says twice a week I got to do it. And you can try, but eventually I'm going to tell you that's going to catch up with you at some point.
Yeah. Yep. Listen to your body. Jamie Flint says, like you, I had a rhabdo incident recently. Unlike yours, it was mild and they discharged me quickly with a clean bill of health. I'm almost 40 now, though, and this experience has spooked me. It wasn't like I was doing something I hadn't done when I was younger. How do I get back to training without having something like this happen again? Like we just talked about it, actually. Chances are the day you pushed yourself into rhabdo, you weren't feeling just chippy and great. Oh man, I'm just gonna go and tear it up. Your body was probably already feeling the effects of the days before training. That's my bet. Maybe I'm wrong. Post if I'm wrong, please.
In most cases, I think that's true. There are other cases where somebody has come back. This is their first workout back from a long layoff, and they're chomping at the bit, and they just do too much. And so I honestly think, though, the very first thing, the first step in realizing is in realizing that the game has changed. Or rather, the game is still the same, but you've changed. You're older. You know, your physiology now handles training differently, which sometimes can be very hard to accept or even understand. So I'll tell you what my doctor told me when I told him, you know, I've done more intense stuff than this. Why did it put me in the hospital? He said, you can still train like you're 25, but your kidneys are 50. There's nothing you can do about that. I mean, your kidneys are 50, which means they don't work as efficiently. And the kidneys and your other organs, for example, don't filter metabolic waste as efficiently as they did when you were younger, say in your 20s. Second, you need to understand the triggers for rhabdo as they're described in the literature. And I would tend to agree with almost all of them that I read. This isn't a comprehensive list, but it's what I remember sticking out. The first and probably biggest is doing a lot of something that you're unaccustomed to or haven't done in a long, long time. You do that and enough of it, and you can trigger a rhabdo episode. So like I said before, coming back from a layoff and trying to perform a record amount of volume in the first workout isn't a smart idea. You know, you need to build up to it. Lifting extremely heavy weights for you, whatever that is another one. And it doesn't necessarily take a lot of volume. I was surprised to read that. Also, working quickly between sets, what was referred to, I think, as, you know, overly metabolic demands.
Right.
Doing that or doing it for too long is another trigger. And this is what got me. Any intensification technique or especially combining them, which is the stupid mistake I made, is a big trigger, right? So static holds aren't enough. We've got to put, the Katsu bands on and or the and use other intensification techniques. No, that's a big mistake. Other things that you may or may not think of, any statin meds put you at enormous risk for rhabdo. So if you're taking one, beware of that little
because statins actually cause muscle wasting without working out. They damage muscle without doing anything.
So what does that tell you without even training?
And I want to also say something else. Yep. Modern medicine is looking at the wrong target when they diagnose people with rhabdo. So creatine levels and creatinine levels is what they always look at. But that's not what causes rhabdo. What causes rhabdo is a rapid release of myoglobin. What is myoglobin? When you eat a bloody steak, it's not blood. That's not blood that's coming out of the steak when you slice it. It's all pink. That's myoglobin. Myoglobin is inside the muscle fiber. When the muscle fiber ruptures, the myoglobin escapes. The kidneys have very, very, very difficult time processing myoglobin. They're not used to it. They process it in small amounts, but not in large cascading amounts. So if you go to the hospital because you have symptoms, then obviously the rhabdo could be real. But if you just go to the doctors one day at a routine visit and they go, oh my God, you're almost at rhabdo levels of creatine here. Your creatinine levels are going through the roof. Ask them to look at your say, what are my myoglobin levels? Oh, no, your myoglobin is undetectable. Then walk out of there with confidence. You don't have rhabdo.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. They still use CK levels, creatine kinase.
Kinase, right.
And as I found out, this is very problematic because they give a range, right? A norm.
For lazy people, a norm.
for normal people.
Yeah, right.
You and I and other people listening are not normal people, at least when it comes to activities that cause tissue breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
So even more, I discovered there is no consensus in the medical field, even today, of where rhabdo starts and where it ends.
Right.
In terms of CK levels. So my CK levels were continually over the top end of the range. And my doctor, he was beside himself. He's like, you got to stop this. And I told him, I said, Doc, I haven't done anything for 9 weeks. And so I finally printed out a few studies. I brought them with me showing that CK levels for athletes are a whole different ballgame. And in fact, what he could be looking at and I could be looking at is normal for me. Couple other things. They're going to look at, as you pointed out, creatinine levels as a general marker of kidney health. Couple things that off the top that can elevate that. The prescription medicine lisinopril elevates creatinine levels in some people. Eating a lot of red meat the night before the test will skyrocket it.
But guess what's in that meat?
Myoglobin
and creatine.
Yeah, right. And speaking of which, the kidney specialist told me, he says, well, you taking creatine? I said, yeah. He said, oh, God, you got to get off that. That's going to cause problems. Well, actually, when you look in the literature, if anything, it helps.
Yes.
Another thing that helps, and in no small amount, it cuts creatine kinase levels in half. I don't know about myoglobin. I'll have to go back and look. But tribulus terrestris slashed CK levels in athletes that otherwise weren't using it. So, take those things with a grain of salt if the doctor comes back and says that. Overall, go slow, especially when coming back from a layoff or introducing major changes into your training. That simple trick, those 1 or 2 things, has kept me out of the hospital now, knock on wood, for over 3 years since my last rhabdo episode.
And if you have had real rhabdo and your kidneys are compromised, thymosin beta 4 is your friend.
Yeah, right.
At least 1 milligram a day for a few weeks.
Yeah, it was. I struggled with that for a long time. My GP didn't understand it. Right? He kept seeing high creatinine levels, CK levels. He sent me to a kidney specialist, I think 3 times before I figured out it was a medication I was taking in one instance, and the other one I had eaten red meat the night before the test, and my creatinine, I think the upper end of the range is what, 1.7, 1.9 something. I was like 2.6 or something. He called me up. He was all worried. And I said, well, wait a minute. I
haven't trained in 6 weeks or whatever.
Right. And I ate 1.5 pounds of, red meat last night simply because I was hungry. Let's rerun the test in a few days. And sure enough, right, it came down into the normal level. So long way of saying, just be cautious and exercise common sense. Unless you're doing something too crazy, you should be okay.
Post your questions. We will get to all of them. And if you're on the Superhuman Nation group page, you have to allow StreamYard to see your Facebook comments. You have to give it permission. We're going to take a quick commercial break. In the meantime, don't forget to share the show. When we come back, we have more of your questions and comments. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/whiteoak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. Knoll Creek Hemp Company's Delta 8 soft chews are the premier Delta 8 product on the market today. Knoll Creek's Delta 8 is produced from high-quality hemp-derived CBD oil, and soft chews are manufactured using proprietary nano-emulsification technique that ensures the Delta 8 soft chew will timely deliver the desired effects cleanly and consistently from piece to piece. In a space where at least 70% of the products fail to meet label claims and where most users of conventional hemp products are left disappointed, Knoll Creek's Delta 8 soft chews are a product you can trust. Visit shrnetwork.biz/Delta8. That's DELTA and the number 8, and use the code SHR20 to get 20% off your first order today. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. Epigenome. Every day, there's a new wellness trend. Eat that. Do this. Avoid those. How do you know where to start or who to trust? Inside Tracker helps you cut through the noise by analyzing your blood, your DNA, your lifestyle, and your fitness tracker to provide you with a science-backed trackable action plan on how to live, age, and perform better. Personalized one-size-fits-one recommendations to help you optimize you. For a limited time, Inside Tracker is offering Superhuman Radio listeners 25% off the entire store. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Inside Tracker, INSIDETRACKER, to save 25% off. Change begins on the inside. Hey, this is Carl Lenore. Superhuman Radio is the longest running health, fitness, and anti-aging podcast in the world, going into our 16th year of continuous production. If you have a product that you think would appeal to the Superhuman Nation, we can get you on the air quickly and inexpensively to help promote your brand. Join the ranks of some of the largest and most successful companies in the world who know how great it is to be affiliated with Superhuman Radio. Contact Dan Kapitz Kopitsky today. That's DAN.KOPITZKE at superhumanradio.net to learn more.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Hey, welcome back to Superhuman Radio. Just want to give a shout out to NutriSense. NutriSense makes a continuous glucose monitor that I love. It helped me zero in on the meals that work for me. But more importantly, what we are learning from science about this virus is if you have elevated blood sugar levels, you are more likely to get severe symptoms and a higher likelihood of dying. So if you don't know what your blood sugar levels are on a day in and day out basis, you really need to give yourself a chance to use a continuous glucose monitor. And NutriSense has the best one out there. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/NutriSense, NutriSense, all one word, use the code SHR30. You'll get $30 off, plus a free month access to a registered dietitian to help you interpret your results and fix your problems. Don't wait till you are in the hospital. Get yourself a continuous glucose monitor now. It'll help you lose body fat. It'll help you feel better and train better. But more importantly, it'll give you a glimpse into what your blood sugar levels look like on a day in and day out basis, including when you sleep. Protect yourself. Knowledge is power. NutriSense. Okay. The next question comes from, let's see where we are. It looks like Dan Christie. Yeah, he says, I recently tried your Synthogen. And after one workout, I can see what you mean. It's 2 days later, and normally my soreness is peaking, but nothing today. Pretty incredible. He says, but previously I was taking 3+ grams of curcumin with BioPrene just prior to training. Then I decided to try the new Mariva version, which they claim absorbs 45 times better than regular curcumin. But it wasn't as good as Synthogen. Why is that?
Well, if all you read were the studies, you would arrive at the same conclusion most people would. Curcumin should limit muscle damage and alleviate DOMS, right? Better than pretty much anything else that's legal. And then along comes a product that not only does it better, but it does it a lot better. So the question is why? And really to answer that, I think you need to understand the difference between the two products, and the difference is vast. First of all, Synthogen is not a single ingredient like curcumin. There are actually 16. So right away, it has more potential to actually work better in that regard. It also does not have the bioavailability challenges that curcumin does, or at least some formulas do. Although I will grant you, those can certainly be overcome in the right formula. And Synthogen is also not a painkiller, or at least it doesn't block pain and inflammation in the way that curcumin has been shown to. It works differently. It works fundamentally differently. So step one, and probably the most significant difference, is Synthogen actually repairs muscle tissue quickly, like very, very quickly. And it does that by getting all 9 essential amino acids necessary for repair and recovery into the ribosome and yada, yada. Obviously, curcumin is curcumin. Curcumin doesn't contain the essential amino acids. It doesn't contain the ecdysterone, which is speculated to accelerate the assembly of those amino acids in the ribosome. And Synthogen does other things too that probably explain why it will recover you so much quicker. One of those is ensuring that the energy state of the cell is optimal. So, meaning ATP is depleted by exercise, right? We know this. And then it's very rapidly replenished when you're using Synthogen, faster than anything else that I have found. And I know that's a big statement, but look, ask the people that use it, okay? They'll tell you. What happens when that energy state gets low is the body will put things like growing muscle and recovering muscle, it'll put those things on the back burner until ATP levels, in large part, can be replenished to a level where the body says, okay, now we're going to, lay down some muscle tissue. You see this in dieting all the time. In every diet, ultimately, every diet that is a real diet will ultimately fail with time. So there's this anti-catabolic effect that ultimately fails at some point. Synthogen is it's allowing the cell to maintain high ATP levels so that there are no red lights the body gets in terms of recovering and regrowing new muscle tissue. So those are just two processes, let's say, of many, but you can see where curcumin just can't replicate everything that's happening. To be fair, no single ingredient product I'm aware of that's legal can. It's very difficult. It really isn't a fair comparison. It's kind of apples and oranges. Here's the bottom line, though, and I'll say this all day long. Curcumin is an excellent supplement, and most people listening should be taking it. In fact, I would tell you, if you're going to take one thing along with Synthogen, curcumin would be, either at the top or one of the things at the top of my list. It is a very solid addition to most people's regimen. I would simply ask that you look for a more absorbable curcumin due to the bioavailability issues.
So the next question comes from Seth Andrews. He said, anti-catabolics were all the rage a long time ago. Is the theory valid, and was there one that really worked?
I think the theory was valid, yes. Although it was more problematic, I think, than what was originally thought. So here's what I mean by that. Catabolic is the opposite of anabolic. It means to break down, in this case, muscle. When you hear anti-catabolism discussed in the context of bodybuilding, they're usually talking about slowing or stopping muscle loss. Someone, it might have been Duchenne himself, observed that steroids worked not just because they were anabolic, but also because they were anti-catabolic. And that all the attention to that point had been on maxing out anabolic properties. But he kind of postulated, what if we came up with some great anti-catabolic agents? Because the anabolic ones, by and large, were all illegal. Why don't we go down this other road? And theoretically, anyway, if that worked, we'd have more muscle. Now, just how much more is still open to debate. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Most over-the-counter anti-catabolic agents turned out to be woefully disappointing. Starting with OKG and continuing on through curcumin, let's say, which has a lot of studies showing it limits muscle damage and muscle atrophy and those sort of things. But they didn't give anyone any noticeably anyway, more muscle. Now, there is some research, I will grant you, showing that fish oil and curcumin during, let's say, a layoff preserves muscle. And I would tend to agree with that.
Think about that. If it preserves muscle in a layoff, what is it doing when you're still training?
Right. It could get real interesting, right? And so, anyway, while all that was going on in the supplement world on anti-catabolics, the prescription to drug using brethren of ours were beginning to use it in bodybuilding's pro ranks. And so you saw everything from, like, for example, it was speculated that Nubane, which is what? It's actually a narcotic.
It's an opioid. It's a narcotic. It's like heroin.
It was speculated, and I remember Duchenne saying this. I remember reading it in one of his columns. He talked in glowing terms about, it's an anti-catabolic. Well, honestly, most people were just fooling themselves, including him, right, into a hell-ridden Nubane addiction.
I mean, so many bodybuilders became addicted to Nubane. It destroyed their lives. It put them in jail.
Right.
And it really has no place in bodybuilding.
Right. And so that was kind of
watching a guy a documentary where a guy said he couldn't train legs unless he was on Nubain because of the pain. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like Joe Biden. Come on, man.
So that was kind of strike one. A somewhat semi-success, I would say, was clenbuterol. Although it's not a steroid, right? It's actually an asthma medication,
and it's anabolic because it stimulates anabolism through the corticosteroid receptor. No, the androgen receptor. Yeah, it docks in the androgen receptor as well.
So Duchenne himself, said, "Whoa, this stuff causes visible changes in 2 weeks," and so it was speculated that, that was somewhat due anyway to anti-catabolism. How much of it, though, really was fat loss? How much of it was anti-catabolism? I don't think anybody ever quantified. What they did find out in short order was it was such a perfect fit at the receptor level that its activity downregulated quickly. And then came the news that it, cardiomyopathy and all these other things. Sidodrin was another drug. It was probably the most famous that was being used by bodybuilders, at least at the anti-catabolic peak, I'll call it. But bodybuilders found out quickly that led to very sore joints, extreme fatigue, and just a host of other problems. And it who knows, but there were some deaths where guys were taking a lot of Sidodrin. Granted, they were taking a lot of other things, but did that contribute? Who knows? Nevertheless, if you're still interested in anti-catabolism, I would recommend the following. And it's not necessarily a pill or a supplement. I would intentionally, for short periods of time, overtrain and undereat. Because when you do that, it's seen as a threat to your body. And consequently, the body will mobilize a lot of its anti-catabolic machinery because it's trying desperately to hang on right to the muscle that you do have. And so it's also upregulating every anabolic action that it has. It just can't do it yet because it doesn't have the calories. It doesn't have you're not giving it the time. You're not backing off and letting it super compensate and grow stronger. At a crucial point in that exercise, which can only be known to you through trial and error. I wish there was a better answer, but it's trial and error. You back off your training, you load back in the calories and the protein and all the other stuff. And what you'll find is there is a brief window where catabolism will still be very low from that extreme diet and overtraining, and anabolism will be high. And so the environment, if you will, for gains is very, very favorable. You'll make quick gains in short periods of time. It doesn't last forever. That's the bad news. The good news is if you really know what you're doing, you can replicate it. It doesn't just happen once. You can do it again and again and again for short periods of time. Otherwise, I would tell you curcumin, fish oil, essential amino acids certainly would be on my docket, and ecdysterone. I would tell you those are your top 3 or 4 legal anti-catabolics that are worth mentioning, spending the money on, and using.
Taking an anti-catabolic that is not also anabolic. Understand, anabolic drugs are by nature anti-catabolic because they are causing tissue to grow.
Right.
And let me tell you what's really wrong with anti-catabolics. Back in the day,
phosphatidylserine, yep.
It's said to be an anti-catabolic.
Right.
Because it shuts down cortisol production. And everybody goes, oh, cortisol is catabolic. It is. But cortisol is also lipolytic. In other words, it burns fat. It doesn't just break down bone and skin and muscle. It breaks down fat too. Now,
right.
Ridiculously high chronic levels of cortisol will cause a redistribution of fat as well. And that seems to be all that people have focused on in the supplement industry. Oh, cortisol's giving you belly fat. No, it's the levels of cortisol that are giving you belly fat. but having normal levels of cortisol will actually help you burn fat. So the problem with all the anti-catabolics is they almost exclusively focused on cortisol. Like cortisol is the enemy. Cortisol is not the enemy, not at all. So I would suggest that you abandon anything that calls itself an anti-catabolic and just use things that call themselves anabolic, because you get the anti-catabolic effect, but you also turn on the growth of muscle and bone.
Yeah, and frankly, that's what people found, right? I mean, they suppressed cortisol to astounding degrees, certainly with Citadrin, and look what happened.
Oh, they would wait. They would. So the funny thing is, like, people would take like 400 milligrams of phosphatidylserine at bed because they said, oh, cortisol goes down, you sleep better. They'd wake up in the morning, they'd feel exhausted.
Yeah.
Well, because cortisol is supposed to rise in the morning, and if you take something that blunts it and you wake up in the morning, you're still exhausted because cortisol plays a major role in waking your ass up in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just silly, you know. That's why you have to be careful. People look at this one thing when they look at science. Oh, let's just suppress cortisol. Well, cortisol has a reason to be in you.
Right. It's and you can't make sweeping statements, you know, such and such is all bad or all good. It just doesn't work like that.
As my friend Joel Green likes to say, that's baby talk, and that's where most people are stuck. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. We're going to take a quick commercial break.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Redcon One's new BAR bar is the ultimate soft-baked protein-packed snack bar, powered by peanut butter. Perfect for while on the go to help curb hunger or sneaky sweet tooth cravings. With 20 grams of protein, use as a meal replacement bar or when you're in need of a high-protein snack. Eat a Redcon One bar as a midday snack or for fuel before an intense training session. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Redcon1 and use the code SHR25 and save 25% off these delicious bars today. Epigenome. I keep saying the number one killer is insulin resistance. Managing blood sugar is the key to living long and aging well. But we all like to eat starchy carbohydrates and sugars from time to time. How do I manage this? I use a product called Blood Sugar Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. This easy-to-take supplement is the result of numerous tests to find the absolute best formula for maintaining healthy blood sugar. Blood Sugar Breakthrough works to safely lower blood sugar after meals so that you can maintain a healthy weight and redirect carbohydrates to your muscles where they can be burned as energy. This means you'll avoid the worst effects of high blood sugar, like weight gain and advanced aging, while enjoying more stable energy, mental clarity, and fewer cravings. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blood sugar and save 10% with code SHR10 today. I need to share with you all a revolutionary new wearable technology called HapBee. HapBee allows you to enjoy the effects of caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, melatonin, and muscle relaxants without actually ingesting anything. Yes, really. They figured out the unique magnetic signature of each of these molecules and recorded them. Just put the HapBee on, choose the signal you want, and it starts projecting the magnetic signature of that molecule that you choose, like coffee for feeling alert. Go to hapbee.com/SHR. That's HAPBEE.com/SHR to learn more and unlock an $80 discount exclusively for the Superhuman Radio listeners. Is there something interfering with your happiness or ability to achieve your goals? BetterHelp can help. They will assess your needs and match you with a licensed therapist. This is not a self-help or crisis line. It's professional counseling done securely online. They have a broad range of experts and are available worldwide without having to wait in an uncomfortable waiting room. Get the help you need and start living a happier life today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/betterhelp. That's better, HELP, and receive 10% off your first month of counseling when you use the code SHR.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Hey, welcome back. Before we get into the blueprint tip of the day, I have to acknowledge a couple people here. So even though you can't read his name, this is from Darcy Clark, who lives in Canada. He said he sure missed the show. And Being Lahori Fitness says, nice information. Thanks for being here.
Very nice. Thank you. It's nice to hear that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we move right to the blueprint tip of the day. And if we have any other questions, we'll answer it after that. What is the blueprint tip of the day, Rob?
The tip of the day is, what would you trade to feel safe? So for those of you old enough to remember, 9/11 ushered in something eerily similar to what's happening today, what I call the surveillance state. So prior to 9/11, cameras in America, the cameras that you saw was usually hanging around somebody's neck, right? This big clunky device with a lens on it. And you knew, right, if somebody was taking a picture of you. And frankly, personal privacy seemed to be held in much higher regard than it is today. Then planes started flying into buildings and people got scared enough to sign away their freedoms and be A-OK with cameras everywhere now. So why did people give up those personal freedoms? Most of them did so for one reason. There was an unspoken exchange. They were told it would keep them safe. So in effect, they said, here, you can take these personal freedoms. I don't want them anymore if you're going to keep me safe from these terrorists. And unfortunately, it wasn't just terrorists, it turns out, that they needed protection from. Now, if you think these are just cameras, think again. Most major interstates no longer have toll booths. They've been replaced by banks and banks of these cameras peering down overhead. Less obvious are the ones that are along, the route that you may be taking, or in the parking lot of a major store, et cetera, et cetera. Here in Massachusetts, anyway, those cameras are so good. They can record where you got on, where you got off, and every point in between. Recording all of that down to the minute and even second of where you were and all points in between. And know this, they can do that at night, in the driving rain, or in the middle of a blizzard. But wait, there's more, right? Because shortly after getting home from your trip, you get a bill in the mail from the state asking you to pay those tolls, which is a disturbing little reminder that they know where you live. And so prior to all this, I can recall visiting Boston in high school. This is circa 1987, 88. And blowing all of our money and having no change, right, for the toll booth while we were leaving to come home. And so instead, it sounds weird, but, a friend of mine grabbed some bottle caps and some rocks he had in his car, and he threw it in the change bin. And the light turned green, and we went on our way. We never heard another word about it, right? And what would happen if you did that today? My God, the whole thing would have been captured.
You'd not only be sent a bill, but you'd probably be tried for fraud.
Yeah, or at least brought up on charges, right? The point is this: we didn't get here overnight. The new laws that were written or rewritten to allow the government to do this were largely contained in something called the Patriot Act, which was passed shortly after 9/11. Now, that's a nice name, isn't it? The Patriot Act.
They always give them names where you feel like you can't go against it if you're not a patriot.
Right. It sort of sounds like you're doing your part to fight terrorism. The problem, though, is when you read it in its entirety, or even portions of it, it's only then you realize how many of your freedoms, right, that you gave away. And so for you trivia buffs, the Patriot Act just wasn't about, hey, we're going to put cameras everywhere now to keep you safe. Oh, no, no, no. They used the Patriot Act to severely limit your access to ephedrine and completely ban its use as a sports supplement.
Yeah, the government loves to pass bills and then stick other things in it that nobody's paying attention to. They do this constantly. It's why so many bills are passed Christmas Eve night. Why? Because everybody's home with their family, eating turkey and drinking wine.
Right.
And these scumbags are up there doing stuff to us that we have no knowledge of.
Right. And what does ephedrine have to do with terrorism? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
But as you pointed out, it was on their hit list, and they had the Patriot Act and used it as an opportunity to slip it through in the middle of the night into an act that sounded like, I'm going to do my part to fight terrorists. Shazam. And now you cannot get ephedra, you cannot get mahuang, you cannot get cedar cordifolia, you cannot get any plant with any ephedrine alkaloids. Do not be fooled, because they still push ephedra out there. There are no ephedra alkaloids in it, which gives it its fat burning properties. So now let me bring this to today. Think about what's going on today. COVID may be an even bigger boon to destroying your freedoms than 9/11 was, because now they've once again used what? Fear to cause enough of a reaction to mandate.
Well, it's not only fear, but anytime there's a quote unquote emergency, then your rights are overridden. And as long as they keep us in this, people are still getting the virus, if this is an emergency, they can keep trampling on us. That's why they love they love the people who are freaked out, because, emergency, we must take over.
And that was in the Patriot Act too. So I want you to consider this. Prior to the Patriot Act, they needed to tell you what you were charged with if you were arrested. You had a right to an attorney, and you could not be held, for too long, so to speak, before coming before a judge. Today, and because of the Patriot Act, all they need to do is label you a threat to national security and or a terrorist, and forget it. And
don't forget, they just suggested on the nightly news about 3 weeks ago that under the heading of terrorism, they talked about a reoccurrence of 9/11, another attack on America. They listed unvaccinated people as part of the terrorism plan.
It's coming.
Unvaccinated people, they're doing this on purpose. And I want to say something. And we'll get to the question about testosterone, I promise you. Carmela Sierzo, who lives in Quebec, said she just came home for lunch. And Quebec just announced you need a vaccine passport to visit loved ones in the hospital. So look at the countries that historically have bitched about Americans owning firearms. Australia and Canada. What do you need guns for? Oh, you crazy Americans. You all have these guns. Now, Australia has become a prison camp where if you're out after a certain time, they beat you up and arrest you. You know why? Because nobody's got any guns there. If you did that stuff here in the United States, people would start shooting at you. And don't think it's not going to happen yet. If this government keeps pushing and pushing, you're going to see, and they're going to say, white supremacists. No, it's not white supremacists. It's people who are tired of the government doing stuff. I want to play something for you. Rob, sit with me just for a second. Okay?
Yep.
Here's a really, really highly intelligent Irish guy from New York. He talked about this back in 2008. Listen to this. Hold on. Why isn't it playing? Hold on. Oh, I must have did something wrong. Oh, I see what I did wrong. Sit tight. This is well worth it. I promise you. This guy was a genius. Yeah. See if you can guess who it is. Oh, Angul. Here it is. Here we go.
I love this place. I love the freedoms we used to have. I love it. I love that. I love it when it didn't take a fucking catastrophe to get us to care for one another. I love the fact that we're on camera all the time from all angles. But you know what? You can say what you want about America. And I say I love this place. I wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't live in any other time in history and any other place. But Say what you want about America, land of the free, home of the brave. We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country. Dumbass motherfuckers, you know? Yeah. Now, obviously, that doesn't include this audience. I understand that. You seem intelligent.
George Carlin. Listen to this guy.
Jumping fucking shitballs. Dumber than a second coat of paint. And this ain't just ranting and raving. This ain't just blowing off steam. I got a little evidence to support my claim. It just seems to me that only a really low IQ population could have taken this beautiful continent, this magnificent American landscape that we inherited. Well, actually, we stole it from the Mexicans and Indians, but hey, it was nice when we stole it. It looked pretty good. It was pristine. Paradise. Have you seen it lately? Have you taken a good look at it lately? It's fucking embarrassing. Only a nation of unenlightened half-wits could have taken this beautiful place and turned it into what it is today, a shopping mall. A big fucking shopping mall. You know that? That's all you got. That's all you've got here, folks. Mile after mile of mall after mall. Many, many malls, major malls and mini malls. They put the mini malls in between the major malls. And in between the mini malls, they put the mini marts. How do people feel about all this? How do the people feel about living in a coast-to-coast shopping mall? It's where they get to satisfy their two most to the slow death of fast food. Americans would buy them and eat them. Especially
I can't wait for it, but he does this whole rant about how we have given up all of our freedom in hopes of being safe.
Yeah.
He said exactly what you're saying right now back in 2008. He said Americans will give up all their freedoms just to be told that they're safe, but they're no safer than they were before they gave up all their freedoms.
Yeah, especially with what happened in Afghanistan. And so where are we? In 20 years, we are now monitored 24/7, and we are no safer than we were when we started. Because now they have a base of operations. Now they have more money than they'll ever need. Now they have hostages to get. If they don't get what they want, they have hostages to take. And from what I've seen, they can't sign up people fast enough because all these young kids want to be on a winning team. Right? They beat the United States, man, the biggest, baddest the only superpower in the world. And so they're signing up in droves. So in my opinion, it's a matter of time before it happens. But the point is, we gave away all of those freedoms, and there was no guarantee of greater safety. There was none of that.
Nope.
In fact, we may be more vulnerable today than ever. So look, when you think about these things and when you encounter them, because every day at this point we're encountering them, please do take this issue seriously, because it wasn't all that long ago that trampling on your personal freedoms was considered impossible in this country. It was like, what? That'll never happen. You know, this wasn't all that long ago. Not anymore. The big squeeze is on for you to give up even more of your individual rights. And I can assure you, they are not going to stop unless we stop them. We need to stand up to tyranny, and the tyranny is here.
So Trudeau is an idiot, Carmela. Really, he's a stone cold idiot. He really is. He's not an intelligent person. He is a puppet for someone. What he's doing to Canada is atrocious. Canadians need to step up. This country, the United States of America, was born and forged out of revolution. We already know how to do it. We're not afraid of it. In fact, revolution is a renaissance, because after the revolution, the country got better. We got rid of Britain, and now the revolution is going to be from within. It's a certain faction of the government. It's no different than it was in 1776. Yeah. And Canada needs to do the same thing. And Australia needs to do it. I mean, what's happening in Australia is a sad, sad situation. There's no one's free in Australia. I mean, I see videos from Australia. I'm shocked. I actually say to myself, man, I bet you guys wish you had guns now.
Yeah, if you want to know what's coming here, Take a look at what's going on in Australia. If we don't do something and stand up to this, that's where it's going. That's where it's going.
We're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we actually have a question that's right up your alley. And it comes from Being Lahori Fitness. I wonder if he's from Israel. Lahori, I think, is an Israeli name. What about testosterone, he wants to know. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with a little bit more of the Blueprint Power Hour. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expressions of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restora-Cell's stem cell awakening serum, along with their other products, contain potent formulations of blue copper peptide and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Buy their complete set and receive a free exfoliating cleanser. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. That's SHR25. Remodel your skin today. Every day, there's a new wellness trend. Eat that. Do this. Avoid those. How do you know where to start or who to trust? Inside Tracker helps you cut through the noise by analyzing your blood, your DNA, your lifestyle, and your fitness tracker to provide you with a science-backed, trackable action plan on how to live, age, and perform better. Personalized, one-size-fits-one recommendations to help you optimize you. For a limited time, Inside Tracker is offering Superhuman Radio listeners 25% off the entire store. Go to shrnetwork.biz/inside tracker, INSIDETRACKER, to save 25% off. Change begins on the inside. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. Epigenome. Redcon One's new BAR bar is the ultimate soft-baked protein-packed snack bar, powered by peanut butter. Perfect for while on the go to help curb hunger or sneaky sweet tooth cravings. With 20 grams of protein, use as a meal replacement bar or when you're in need of a high-protein snack. Eat a Redcon One bar as a midday snack or for fuel before an intense training session. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Redcon1 and use the code SHR25 and save 25% off these delicious bars today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where brawn and brains finally meet.
Welcome back. So we have a question on YouTube from Being Lahori Fitness. He says, what about, he's got a great physique, by the way. What about testosterone as an anti-catabolic? Advocators like more plates, more dates. Derek, I guess there's a guy out there, and I've heard of him. More plates, more dates. He's got a big following. and he's an advocate of turkesterone. You've been talking about turkesterone for how many years now?
10, 15. Yeah. It's okay. So a couple things. Turkesterone is still widely believed to be the most anabolic of all ecdysterones. If you really dig into this, you will find the following. All of this is based on a single study showing that leucine incorporation into muscle was greatest with turkesterone. Understand what that is and what that isn't. It is leucine going into the muscle. It is not, oh my God, these guys grew so much more muscle than,
Well, I mean, so in other words, the study said nothing about protein synthesis. It
Right.
just said the presence of leucine.
Right. And so now with respect to more plates, more dates, Derek, I've listened to his stuff. I don't think his motivation is suspect. I think he came across something that looked good to him. And like a lot of other people, they jump on turkesterone until they get their hands on real turkesterone, and they take gobs and gobs and gobs of it, and nothing happens. The only thing that seems to happen is that people's endurance capability jumps a little more. It is far, in my opinion, from being as good as something like a full spectrum Roponticum, where you have dozens and dozens and dozens, including including turkesterone. Most quality turkesterone product is going to come usually from the Ajuga turkestanica plant. It's very rare. It's grown in Russia. It costs a boatload of money. Take it from someone who's taken tons of it over the last 15 years. And I've used everyone's stuff from Tonvera's over in the UK when they were getting the material straight from ICPS, Institute of Chemistry and Plant Sciences in Uzbekistan. I've gotten it directly from ICPS, which wasn't even a commercial product. And I've gotten it from other places in Russia. It is no anabolic wonder substance. And you can spend a ton of money learning that the hard way, or you can listen to the people that have taken it. And look, I don't have an agenda. If I thought turkesterone was far and away the best ecdysterone there was, I would have come out with a turkesterone product a long time.
I was going to say, you use a full spectrum ecdy, right?
Right.
But you could have used a turkesterone instead.
I could have, and we looked at this. I could have isolated for any one of hundreds of ecdysterones. And the bottom line is there's nothing that's going to outperform the ecdysterones that are found in Roponticum. And it's very simple. It's nature's fingerprint.
And I was just going to say, if we know anything about isolating, so I remember when TA65 came out, TA65 claimed to be able to increase the length of telomeres by increasing telomerase. And TA65 was the part of, what plant is that? Oh, I can't believe I'm going to forget the name. But anyway, it was the part of a plant whose name escapes me right now, that was in science studies said that this was all that was needed out of this plant. And then just 3 years later, after TA65 came out with this isolate that was supposed to be telomerase activator, we found out that there were 6 other components in the plant that were more effective at increasing telomere length. So this is nothing new. Nature spends literally millions of years making the perfect organism. And then humans come along and go, oh, all we want is that. Just that. That's all we need. That's all we need. That's it. That's going to be everything. And it's not. It never is. It never, ever, ever is.
The other spin.
There's other things that are working symbiotically in the full spectrum that we can say that with complete assuredness.
Yes. And the other thing I want you to be aware of is the spin that's out there now on turkesterone is that, well, it's not really well absorbed, but look, we got it in a cyclodextrin now. it's going to be 100% absorbable. No, the turkesterone, like other ecdysterones, is plenty bioavailable orally, and I've used it orally. I've pinned it. I've used it transdermally.
You actually had somebody whose name we're not going to mention actually make an injectable version for you, right?
Right. So I mean, I've had 100% bioavailable, ecdysterone, whatever we want to call it, and I can tell you that there is no reason whatsoever, no advantage to putting turkesterone into a cyclodextrin. You're not going to go from marginal results with a plain turkesterone to, oh my God, this stuff is Dianabol when you put it in a cyclodextrin. It only adds to the production expense, and ultimately that gets passed along to you, the consumer.
And you know what really is comparable to Dianabol?
D-ball, right?
Nothing. He's saying Pakistan. I guess he's asking if you ever sourced any from Pakistan.
No, and I'm not aware of any research showing that Turk grown in Pakistan has the same potency, let's say, as the stuff that's sourced out of Russia. In fact, ICPS will only grow their own organic turkesterone, Ajuga turkestanica plants in Uzbekistan and harvest them and standardize them for turkesterone. If you're getting it from China, if you're getting it from Pakistan, if you're getting it from Turkey, which are 3 other source countries, it does not contain nearly as much turkesterone as the stuff from Uzbekistan.
And people find this hard to believe because about 12 or 13 years ago, I did a show about ecdysterone. And I thought, man, I'm going to get some. So I went out on one of the Chinese websites and put in a request that I wanted to buy, a kilo of, and the price was everything from $300 a kilo to $3,500 a kilo. Right.
Right.
And I'm thinking, how could that be? Like, how could one guy be able to sell a kilo for $300 and another guy, unless the guy that's charging $3,500? Then it dawned on me. And this is actually what happened. I thought, so I started asking questions about the standardization with the Chinese company that wanted $300. And I forget what the source of the ecdy was, but it wasn't Cyanotus varga. It was something else, some other plant that just happens to have ecdysterone in it. And I talked to a couple good friends of mine about this, and they said, they have vineyards in Kentucky. We have vineyards here, but the wine doesn't really taste that good. The grapes are grapes. They grow on grapevines, right?
Right.
In Napa, the wine tastes amazing. It's just grapes that grows on grapevines. We forget that the soil contributes everything.
Yeah.
Everything to that plant. Yep. And if you're growing grapes here in Kentucky or Indiana, I think all the wine tastes like asparagus. I really do. And all the wine I take that from the local vineyards, it has an asparagus taste to it. When I go to Napa Valley and drink wine out there, it doesn't taste like that. When I buy a French bottle of wine, it doesn't taste like that. But it's all grapes. How could that be?
You can magnify what you're saying by 100, because in the case of turkesterone and raponticum, it's only harvested once a year in late August, when the actives are at their peak levels in the plant. So this is not something where there's a giant conveyor belt where big fields of ecdy grow and you can go out once a month and harvest them. No, if you're buying real stuff month in and month out, you will find that occasionally they will be out of stock for a month or 2 months or 3 months, because there's only so much. We're not talking about a chemical that people can synthesize. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, you could, but it's so prohibitively expensive, there's no way they do it.
That's why you can maybe synthesize 1 or 2 components. You're not going to synthesize the entire spectrum that's found in that plant.
Right. So the bottom line here is, look, turkesterone looks great in the literature. But when you actually look at the literature that's making it look great, it's one study and it doesn't say it grows heaps of muscle. All it says is it incorporated a little more leucine than the other ecdysterones. And that study, by the way, to my knowledge, was never repeated by research scientists anywhere else. And ecdy's research, as you know, goes on everywhere from Russia to Japan to Brazil to Hungary. It's just, and the United States. I mean, Rutgers University, look it up, has done plenty of work on ecdysterone and continues to, because of the promise of the compound. Baylor University is another one. You know, these are not rinky-dink community colleges, folks. You know, these are big universities doing cutting-edge research, and they're spending time and money on ecdysterone.
So here's the last question we're going to answer, again, from Being Lahori Fitness, and we're so happy to have you here today. How to recover the HPT axis damage after years on steroids? Sometimes you can't.
Yeah,
it depends on how old you are. There
are people, and this has just been my experience, there are people that have done nothing and have waited for it to come back, and some of them it has come back. Depends how long you've been on, how much you've been using, that sort of thing. Does it ever come back to a level where they're happy with? No, never seen that once. I've seen other people where it never comes back, just doesn't. Still other folks, you know, if you're gonna get it back, I think you're gonna do it right. You use HCG or something like it to get your testicles and the hypothalamus, the pituitary working again. But understand that even then, you know, even if you're going from 200 milligrams of test a week, which is nothing by most right people, after you're done with your HCG and other things, you're not going to get anywhere near the boost that I think you're going to get from 200 milligrams a week.
I was a year into trying to regain my natural testosterone. I'm trying to put this in perspective. So I'm 63 now, and I think I was probably around 53, maybe.
Right.
54. And I decided that I wanted to come off. You know, I was using a lot of drugs and so I thought, you know, I'm going to come off. And I literally, and I was communicating with Porter Cottrell at the time, because Porter was a former competitive bodybuilder, and he's a great source of information about steroids. And so first I came off completely without HCG, without clomiphene, without anything at all. And I waited about 6 months. I felt horrible. I was depressed. I couldn't sleep, but I said, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to cold turkey. I'm going to get through it. Couldn't do it. So about 6 months in, I started using HCG and clomiphene, and I followed the basic protocol. It was 200 milligrams of clomiphene a day for 3 days, to 100 milligrams of clomiphene a day for another 3 days, to 50 milligrams of clomiphene a day for months, because until your testosterone levels came back. And I was using injectable HCG under 1,000 IUs a week, because anything more than 1,000 IUs a week has the opposite effect. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing like 2 shots of 400 IUs twice a week. Right. And I waited another 4 or 5 months getting blood work. I couldn't get my testosterone back up above 420.
Yeah.
And so I had to make a decision. I was like, staying here is going to open me up to disease. It's going to open me up to all sorts of problems. I don't feel good. This is a horrible way to go. And I remember I waited a year, and I said, that's it. And I just started doing 250 milligrams a week of testosterone, and I've never looked back. And obviously everybody in the audience knows I've used a lot more on a weekly basis, but unfortunately,
it's a quality of life issue.
Yeah, the quality of life issue is it all is. And the older you are, the harder it is to bounce back from. Even young kids. There's kids out there that are on SARMs right now. They're in 19, 20, 21 years old.
That are crippling their own.
They get off SARMs and they feel like hell for a year. They don't know what's wrong with them. They're depressed. They're taking antidepressants. It's like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't bounce back. I mean, most of the pro bodybuilders I know that have come off are on HRT for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. If you want to have a quality of life that's good, because as you pointed out, you can live with 370, 470. The doctors will tell you you're normal.
You're normal. Yeah.
And my comment would be, I'm miserable. So is it worth being miserable? No, not at all. I don't
Forget
think.
about the miserable part. There are a lot of diseases associated with low testosterone. Congestive heart failure is fivefold more prevalent in men with low testosterone. Depression, type 2 diabetes, which leads to everything else. So I wouldn't stay. I would give it a good shot. And in fact, I'll tell you a secret that I learned. Find an andrologist. So if you go by accident, you end up at an endocrinologist's office today, they have no idea what to do with you. If you had type 2 diabetes, they'll prescribe insulin. But today, endocrinologists know nothing about men's testicles. I mean, they learned something in college about it, but they don't know anything about it. But you have to find an endocrinologist who is an andrologist. All they do is work on male reproductive system. And they will do what's known as a gonadotropin challenge test. They'll give you a shot of a gonadotropin releasing hormone, a very large shot, big shot. And then they'll watch your blood for the next 6 hours, every hour. Then they look for the rise in testosterone. If they see a rise in testosterone, then that means your testicles are still functioning. Now, it's about the hypothalamus and pituitary. Then they'll try to determine if the hypothalamus is working right, which is basically the thermostat that's telling the pituitary when it needs more of a hormone, or the pituitary is not working right because it's not producing luteinizing hormone. So if your testicles are working, there are things that they can do to slowly bring you back to normal. But if nothing's working, if they give you that challenge test and they don't see a rise in testosterone, then you're on testosterone for the rest of your life if you want to stay healthy. That's the sad truth. But find an andrologist and work with an andrologist because they'll know what to do with you. If you just go to a endocrinologist, unless you're going there with type 2 diabetes, they have nothing to do. Have a great day, guys. I got to get back to work. Good seeing you, Carmela. Stay safe. Stay Canadian. Don't let them change you people up there because that's what Trudeau wants to. He wants to make you all a bunch of zombies. All right, and that's it for today. I think we've answered pretty good questions. What do you think?
Yeah, great show. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for everybody who's here and asks questions. It brings the flavor to the show. We appreciate that. And please share the show because you never know. There could be one little thing we talked about in the show that can actually help someone or even change their lives. So please share the show. We'll see everybody tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Don't forget to go to CoachRobRegish.com to learn more about all the great things that Rob does for his athletes.
Thanks, man.
Take care. And that's it. Where's my music? What happened?